God Almighty, just cast your mind to imagine, we're 1960, and you go and watch something which has been advertised as a film with Janet Leigh, Marion Crane for this film. You go in, you watch it, and 48 minutes into the film, she's dead. Alfred Hitchcock just set out to break all possible conventions. And he did not just with killing your protagonist halfway through the film, not just by starting in the most, the camera sort of creeps in from this eye bird view of Phoenix, moves around and then sort of goes inside the house. Hitchcock is famous to use the themes of voyeurism all the time. Real Reno is a classic example. And here we are peeking through the house of these people. We find them in flagrante delicto, to say, just had sex in the middle of the afternoon or something, and obviously having some extramarital relationship. And straight away she's wearing a bra. I mean, again, 1960, He's just fighting the censors like nothing before. One of the reasons why he shot in black and white, apart from the fact that it was cheaper, was because he could get away with more by showing the blood in black and white than it would have been if it had been in color. So there was a really sort of conscious decision going for black and white. And also, I mean, it helps the movie incredibly. I never think of this film as being in black and white. It works brilliantly. At the time, very, very few people did film things in black and white. It makes it feel slightly older to be in black and white. So the film it's a film, I was saying before, it's a film that kind of split into two halves. Marion in the beginning and then Norman in the second half, and then we got this final thing with these two couple, Vera Miles, the sister, and the boyfriend. And everything is sort of mirrored. I don't know if you noticed throughout. If that thing is going to work in a second, I'm going to show you in the beginning when she's stolen the money, and she goes back to the house, and she sort of looks at herself in the mirror for the first time. Throughout the film, throughout the whole first part, there's mirrors throughout, and she always walks by the mirror, but she never ever looks at herself, almost like she's sort of afraid of seeing herself, she's ashamed of what she's done. The mirror of the car, the scene where she's trying to get the money from the station, the gas station, again, the mirror in front of her, and she never looks at herself in the mirror. She's almost like afraid to see her own reflection. She's afraid to see what she's done. She's guilty as hell. There you go. Another mirror. She's always in front. She doesn't look at it. There's like, what do I do? Should I go back? Should I not go back? Am I feeling guilty? Am I not feeling guilty? No. Always in the background. We got these bloody mirrors all the time over there. Again, she goes back to the bedroom. Mirror is in the background. She doesn't look at it. She's writing a letter. The mirror is in the background. And so on and so on. This is the first shot in the American film history of a toilet, of a flashing toilet. First ever. He broke all the rules and the mold even by showing a toilet. The film is an attack on the censors, anything I can get away with, and he does. And it's interesting how Hitchcock is doing something really clever. So we start as voyeurs. We start from above, from up there, we go down, we see this couple. In the beginning, we don't really know who's the protagonist. Actually, this is an American film, it might as well be him, with the camera sort of lingers on him more than it lingers on her to start with. And then he keeps it all sort of slightly wide-ish, always two shots, and then we sort of focus, the camera finally moves on her, and we begin to follow her. But up until she goes back to the house, she goes to the office, she works in the office, the old guy sort of moves this money in front of her, she doesn't even look at the money. It's all intentional how crass he is, waving this money, I can buy everything, I'll buy it. I mean, you just don't like him, and you're supposed to not like him.
Sometimes I can't keep my mouth shut.
She steals the money, yes, but he was an asshole, basically. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit of that going on.
Playground of the world.
Again, all in wide shot. Keeps him being wide shot.
Aren't you going to take
And
the
then,
pills? They'll
look
help
when he
you
goes
sleep
closer.
now. Can't buy off unhappiness with pills.
Key line, you cannot buy unhappiness with pills. That's when you start getting close to her. You understand she's not happy. She wants to try more, boom. And Hitchcock chooses a close-up at that point. And then from that moment onwards, as I said, we do the whole car thing where we stay close to her, we hear voices, fine. And she goes back to the house, she drives, those wonderful scenes where she's running around, she sees the boss. All that is for us, the audience, to kind of fall in love with her, but start to kind of sympathize with her, start to sort of see what she sees. And there's a wonderful scene when she goes back home. She's wearing a black bridesmaid. Okay? She starts with a white one, then she committed a crime, and then when she appears again, she's wearing a black one. Again, that's a clear sign she's guilty. She's gone guilty. And so the camera sort of moves from her and it goes down to the bed, to the money, and by itself. Then the camera moves to the suitcase. So we are the camera at the moment. We are just following the action. We are not quite with her yet. And then these moments where she starts kind of going like, should I take the money? Should I not take the money? And it's a great scene where she goes around the bedroom and she gets dressed, she puts her stuff in the suitcase, she packs and everything. And every now and then she turns around and she looks at the envelope with the money. Once, twice, 3, 4 times. And those are done with sort of point of view shots. So she turns, camera cuts to point of view. So at that point, it's the first time that the camera basically tells us we're not the audience watching the action anymore. We are inside her mind. And we are watching the money on the bed. Shall I take it? Shall I not take it? And then we got that scene in the car, driving in the car, where she sort of starts imagining the voices of, what the boss would say at work, what the sister would say, whatever. And she's listening to these voices as she's driving. Her eyes never blink. She's got these huge eyes all the time. At that point, we're literally inside her head. So Hitchcock has taken us from bird's eye view, from this couple who's having this kind of affair, and then slowly, we're getting into her. Okay. It's all, if you've seen the film before, it's all a red herring. The money has nothing to do with anything. The money disappears. It's what Hitchcock called a MacGuffin. This MacGuffin is something that sort of drives the plot forward, but it's pointless. It doesn't mean anything. The money, at the end of the day, we don't know where it is. Nobody found it. Maybe they have found it. Who knows? It doesn't matter. It's so important at the beginning. It drives the story so strongly, and then, screw it. Who cares? It doesn't matter. And then at this point, we're really focusing on her. This is a funny scene as well. We're completing with her now. Look at a big close-up of the guy. Boom! Just looking at her. It's quite fun because the policeman sort of looks at her, and you've got that big shot. And then so he moves around the car. He moves to a different place of the car. And then when the camera cuts back to him...
In quite a hurry.
It's exactly the same shot as before where he was on the other side. Very weird. But anyway, that's just that. Again, she's driving around at night, those flashes and things, huge eyes. And then we got this very long scene between Norman and Marion while they're talking, they're having a sandwich and all that. We're going to analyze that in a second.
You eat like a bird.
That's the moment where we're introduced to Norman for the first time. And, if you haven't seen the scene before, if you come in blind or anything, he's very sweet. He's very, you feel pity for him, this relationship with the mother. He has something weird going on.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
Creepy. But it's sweet. It's sweet. And Anthony Perkins plays it beautifully. Interestingly, in the book, the character of Norman Bates was a sort of slightly fat old man, drunk. And Hitchcock changed it completely, rightly so, because he thought, okay, if I kill my main character halfway through the film, the audience is just going to get lost completely, and I'm going to lose it. So I have to give them something that they can hang on to. And here comes Norman Bates. It's amazing that we have, during that conversation in the office, that goes on forever, we sort of, we're kind of fond of him or something. And then when she gets killed, and we think it's the mother, and he goes inside and he goes, oh my God, he slams against the painting falls and all that. And then we got this very long scene which goes on for about 7 minutes, where Norman takes them up and he starts screaming. And the details, it doesn't cut, it doesn't shorten the action. We see every single second of this bloody cleaning. And he takes the tower and he goes backwards and forwards and he does this and he does that. Why is he doing that? He's doing that because as he does that, we are completely drawn to him. We are with him. And there's a sort of weird, perverse way where somehow he forces us to see through his eyes. Because we got nothing else to hang on to. Our character's been killed. Shit, what do we do? And all we have is Norman. He's kind of cute. He's all right. He's sweet. And so we stick with him, and we almost don't. I mean, at least maybe I'm a psycho as well, but I don't want him to be caught. I don't know about you, but the moment where then he goes outside, he's just cleaned the bathroom. He goes outside the cabin for a second. There's a car passing, some flashing lights or something, and he draws back and he's like, oh my God, he's gonna get caught. Hitchcock, it's tantalizing. He plays with us, and am I alone in thinking that? or is somebody thinking, no way, he's a bastard, he's a maniac, needs to be caught? At that point in the film, does anybody think that? Okay, good, I'm not psycho. Fine. Good to know. And so this is what happens. Basically, so he forces us, by the way he films it, by the way he's constructed the film and everything, to be with the guilty person. Well, we think the mother is guilty at that point, yes, but he's kind of covering it up for her, and it's beautifully done. I think that obviously all the misdirections and the way he hides the fact that the mother doesn't exist by having these kind of top shots of when Arbogast, the detective, gets killed, the camera sort of is right above us, and that kind of causes a complete sort of up until that point, the film is always shot with a kind of 35-50mm lens, which means exactly what the eye see. There's no tricks, there's no zooms, there's no ultra-wide shots, there's no long lens which kind of make the background look closer. None of those tricks. It's done normally. It's done, everything looks real. And at that moment, when the camera switches to the top shot of the staircase and the guy gets killed on the stairs, that's meant to kind of throw us completely out of balance. And he does. I heard somebody behind somewhere there going, like that for a moment. And the music has a lot to do with it, obviously. They kind of ding, ding, as it happens, so quite abruptly. So it's really nicely done. And then we introduce, on the last third of the film, to these other two characters. And even though they're trying to look for, the girlfriend and the sister, I don't quite like them somehow, because, I don't know, they're gonna find out that Norman is guilty, and I don't want that. I don't know, I feel very Hitchcock puts me in a very bad spot. But that's what I'm feeling. And I'm sure I'm not alone. And so you're following these people, and well, yes, maybe they find it, but don't poor Norman. He's got his mother who's a bit crazy, and then right at the end of the film, pretty much, when Sam, the boyfriend, is distracting Norman Bates in the office, for the first time on the Vera Miles character, the sister character, she sort of walks to the house, and we've got these kind of POV shots from her point of view. That's the moment we start kind of slowly switching to her. And the tension that grows at that point, as she's going up, beautiful design, that Gothic house, up in the hill, beautifully done, and beautifully placed in a relationship with the hotel. You see from the window, you see from the office, this kind of window always lit, you see this shadow, silhouette of the mother. Just everything is perfectly calibrated, perfectly pitched, perfectly done. And then that moment where she walks around the bedroom of the mother, creepy as hell, with all those little details, very reminiscent if you've seen Rebecca. 1939 or something. He's still doing the same sort of thing with all these objects, very old, from a different era, and those hands, weird, and that shocking moment where she kind of turns and there's like mirrors and mirrors and mirrors. Once again, the idea of the mirrors. Let me just go back to look at how going back to the idea of mirrors. Once we start switching from one to the other, Norman Bates also has his reflection every time, but it's never a clear reflection. It's always like a slightly darker reflection. You see it and you don't. Look at his face, how he's always half in the darkness and half in the light. Every time, every time, every time. And also, this idea of these birds, the stuffed birds. That's very interesting. Here, sort of, he's between the kind of, little turkey, good bird here, and the kind of Hulk, whatever, threatening bird there. It's like literally the duality of this man sort of shown between the kind of good bird and bad bird. The attacking one and the kind of, docile one. And his shadows, halfway through the face. Every time, everything is sort of, look at that as well, how it moves to the front of the, the camera, as I said, the camera doesn't want to, it wants to keep it real. So the camera doesn't do that. It seems sort of going closer. And again, his face kind of half in dark and half. Birds all the way through, all the time birds. When she's getting dressed, there's birds behind there as well. The bird point of view. Phoenix itself, we all know what Phoenix is, Harry Potter. Marion Crane, the name itself, Crane. Norman Bates, as in to bait. It could also be baiting a trap, it could also mean. Now this is an interesting scene showing the kind of the power play between the two. In the beginning we're meant to like him, he's got these kind of lovely birds in the background, and he's relaxed, sitting kind of at eye level, normal person, smiling and everything. That's so lovely. She's got a little birdie thing over there. Everything is sort of quiet and nice, and they're having this lovely conversation.
Well,
You see how he touches it. Very, very relaxed, very sort of, you wouldn't harm a fly. In fact, at some point he even says it.
Sometimes, when she talks to me like that, I feel I'd like to go up there and curse her and leave her forever.
Right, that's the first moment where there's signs that there's something weird going on. And that's when the camera sort of goes slightly lower down, and it's framed between these two predators.
Wouldn't it be better if you put her someplace?
She says the wrong thing, obviously, and that's when, ta-da-dum.
You mean an
Institution.
It's so good, it's so good. And he moves closer, and even closer to this bird, kind of almost catching his face.
an institution?
And then she gets up, and again, she's got the bird behind as well. I think we have to talk about the shower scene, don't we? Sort of halfway through the film, Hitchcock he took his time, as I said before, a week to film that. 46 seconds, 70 shots or something like that. And again, he's playing against the censors, they kept on sort of sending scene back, saying, no, it's too violent. And he said, okay, yes, I'll cut it. And he would send exactly the same thing, saying that he had cut something out, and they would believe him. Because when you look at it, and if you analyze it shot by shot, frame by frame, you do not see A, any nudity, B, any knife going inside anywhere. It's just literally just sound effects and editing. Every time the camera cuts, you cut to something else. And you hear this slightly, the music is really loud and it's really kind of pounding. Interestingly, Hitchcock had designed it without music at all. And I think on YouTube or something you can find versions where it essentially just plays it. And it is uncomfortable, but obviously not as strong. And then when he heard the music from Bernard Herrmann, he's like, oh yes, I want that, absolutely. But it was designed not to have any music. And there's amazing shot, incidentally, the camera sort of moving out of the eye, just completely still. And then you think there must be a photograph, it must be, and then you see a little drop of something, water falling through the eye, you can see that it's a very clever sort of special effects from the time. Amazing. I mean, even filmmakers today don't know how this is done. It's essentially a static frame. He did the move, but then he sort of froze the beginning of the move. And then within that kind of still frame, he moved even further and then sort of played backwards, something like that. So the beginning is actually a photograph or a freeze frame, and then after a while it kind of starts moving. But I cannot see it. I mean, I've read about it, otherwise I wouldn't know how it's done. It's amazing. It's really beautifully done. Incidentally, we've got to talk about the horrendous remake. I don't know if you know Gus Van Sant, the sort of clever director. He's done My Own Private Idaho. He's done Good Will Hunting. He decided at some point back in, I think at the end of the 90s or 2000 and something, to remake Psycho, pilot year to start with, shot by shot by shot. So it is exactly the same thing in color with different actors. We're still trying to understand what the point of that was. We don't know. But and then he released it. Obviously, it was a failure. Nobody saw it. It was panned. It was, but interestingly, he did change a couple of things. With sound mostly, or the first shot, the very first shot is different. Hitchcock always wanted, but he didn't have the means to do it at the time, to start wide on Phoenix and then kind of move closer to the window in one shot. He really wanted to do that. He couldn't do it because obviously we didn't have drones or helicopters or anything like that. So he does it 1, 2, and then there's another one here. Sorry, I'm playing very fast, but and then so he does it in cuts. The remake, all in color and everything. I'm gonna make it faster, but basically, there you go. And obviously, they're both in bed because now we're allowed to see people in bed. At the time we couldn't. We only see hair, and he's getting dressed. So that was, I thought that was kind of a nice homage to Hitchcock. They do the things he couldn't do at the time because they didn't have the actual tools to do them. There's another couple of differences. It's pretty much the same throughout. There's a very disturbing and annoying sound effects when Norman Bates peeks through the hole to see her getting dressed. You hear the sound of him masturbating in the background. Pointless, really. But anyway, so that's the film. Just so that you can have a little bit of fun, I'm just gonna play you a couple of things. That's the modern version where he uses green. That's the top version, is the original, of course. I'm just gonna go a bit faster, there you go. Oh, 1998, that's what it was. But you can see exactly the same shots. I mean, really, what is the bloody point? No idea. The same music, obviously, because, you can't have the shower scene with a different music, can you? It's bizarre, isn't it? Including the real projection in the car. I mean, it's just... Anyway. Not as striking, the toilet anymore in 1998. Might as well play this sequence so you can have some fun. I haven't got the right sound in that moment. They built this giant shower thing when they filmed the point of view from the shower. Now there's one difference towards the end. It's slightly more gruesome, a little bit more gruesome, especially obviously the blood. And then the next shot, when she falls down, yeah, slightly more gruesome. Anyway, that was a bit of a pointless exercise. we were talking about earlier on, the use of silence, the rain and the very, very long sequences go on without any sound at all. There's a little bit of music here, but again, this kind of very lingering sequences, which probably in today's age they would never do again, but they all have a purpose to get us closer to the character, to feel for the character. As I said before, the scene of Norman sort of cleaning the bathroom is it's the moment where we just switch and we are with him. That's the famous trailer. It really starts like one of those Alfred Hitchcock present, doesn't it? He was a very famous director at that point. I recognized him.
Here we have a quiet little motel, tucked away off the main highway, and as you see, perfectly harmless looking, when in fact it has now become known as the scene of the crime. This motel also has, as an adjunct, an old house, which is, if I may say so, a little more sinister looking, less innocent than the motel itself.
Anyway, and then so it walks around and goes around. Yeah, this is quite fun actually.
The second murder took place. She came out of the door there and met the victim at the top. Of course, in a flash there was the knife, and in no time the victim tumbled and fell with a horrible crash. I think the back broke immediately. It hit the floor. It's difficult to describe the way that the twisting of the. Well, I won't dwell upon it. Come upstairs.
And so on and so on. It's 7 minutes long, so I'm not going to show it all, but it's quite fun. And it walks from room to room, and then he goes to the final thing. Actually, he goes to the bathroom.
Down there. Well, the murderer, you see, crept in here very slowly. Of course, the shower was on, there was no sound, and
there you go. Interestingly, he had chosen Vera Miles, who plays the sister, to do the part of Janet Leigh, and then it can change. But the part was written for her, and she had been Vera Miles had been doing a film with Hitchcock before, which was The Wrong Man a few years earlier, and then he kind of fell in love with Janet Leigh and decided to switch roles around. In the book, the chapters with Marion. First of all, it was called Mary, but they realized that there was a woman called Mary Crane in Phoenix, so they thought they could be sued or something, so they changed it into Mary. And the book is about 17 chapters, and the Marion part is only 2. So it was really Hitchcock's idea to drag it all the way and to build this kind of character all the way to the middle, and to create this kind of shock for the audience, and kind of works. I don't think I've seen a film doing that pretty much ever. Probably the Coen brothers have done it, killing the main character about 3/4 through, or yeah. But it's very interesting. Anyway, as always, I talk about this film until whatever. Just want to hear from you, really. Any reactions? Any question? Has anybody read the book? No. Okay. It's very similar in the whole story. Maybe something I should say, that ending with the whole kind of, I'm going to explain it all to you, the kind of Basil's exposition, which is, for today's audience is a bit a bit too much. And funny enough, it was a little bit too much for the audience back then as well, and especially for the critics, who panned that sequence completely. They all hated it. And it had been, that's the only thing that had been forced onto Hitchcock by the studios. And they said, you've got to explain what's going on, you've got to. And there you have a man essentially sitting down, and I mean, it's quite entertaining, really, but it's a bit bland, it's a bit sort of. But then, luckily, you got that final ending again with the bringing the blanket to Norman, who speaks like the mother, and that voice and the long tracking shot, and then right at the end, I'm sure you noticed, you see for just a few frames the skull of the mother superimposed on his face, just enough to. Did I see it? Was it right? Did I see it right? It's really subtle, but not subtle enough. It's beautiful. I think it works really, really well, actually. And then, that shot of the car. I don't know if any of you have seen Psycho 2. Have you seen it? Well, try to find it, because actually, believe me, it's not as bad as you think it might be. It really isn't. It's actually one of the best sequels, really. It sort of just falls down in the last kind of 5 minutes, really, but it's really properly done, and it starts beautifully with the shower scene, of course, and then the camera sort of lingering around. It's a beautiful moment where after the eye shot, then the camera sort of moves around and almost aimlessly around the house. It's like, fuck, I'm lost. What do I do? My protagonist is dead. It's a beautiful moment, and then he finds the money, and then he again lurks around, and he goes to the house, and you hear, "Mother, what have you done? What have you done?"
Mother! Oh, God, Mother!
That's how the second one starts. And then over the shot of the house, the shot turns into color. And you see the house in color. And then it goes through, it's nighttime, then the sun rises. There's this kind of time-lapse shot over the house. And you see all the various colors of the dawn, the sun rising and all that. And then, Psycho 2 appears. And it's a really, really clever story. Vera Miles comes back again, and it plays a lot with that kind of sympathy, inverted commas, that we have for Norman, who, no spoilers, but you really want him to be cured from this illness, so to speak, that he has, and he keeps on having vision of his mother. It's a really good shot. And then the third one. They made 4 actually, and then a whole TV series as well called what is it called? Bates Motel, I think. Yes, which is not bad. It's not bad. Not obviously miles away from this, and it's kind of the prequel. It's his relationship as a young man with the mother. It's very kind of infatuous relationship. But the third one is interesting because it was directed by Anthony Perkins himself. And there's lots of homages to Hitchcock, of course, birds left and right, all sorts of things. And then one of the killing sequence inside a phone box, which really wants to evoke the kind of feeling of, I'm stuck in the shower, and then, I'm stuck in the phone box, and this kind of, nice sort of feeling this person, and he's stuck in the phone box and can't get out. If you have to watch something, the second one is really, really good, and I highly recommend it. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. Anything from you guys? Do we still works? Yes.
Slightly random observation, but when the sister is searching the house, lingers for a surprisingly long time. She pulls a book out.
Yes, that's interesting. Yes.
And she turns
that's very interesting. I think there's a...
symmetrical.
Yeah. I haven't got the proofs for that, but basically, in the book, she finds a scrapbook with, I don't know whether it was a scrapbook or some kind of pornographic book, essentially. And I don't know whether Hitchcock had actually filmed that, and then they decided to cut it. So you don't really see what the book is, but it's in the book, yeah, in the original story.
Were there any problems with it being banned or anything like that when it first?
No, it wasn't, because they couldn't find anything to pinpoint, this is too much. There was nothing, again, the shower scene went backwards and forwards, but when you analyze it, as I said, there's nothing that you can take out, because there's no knife, there's no blood, there's no nudity, So what do you want? You know.
Did they have ratings?
They did. I mean, we're still into the Hays Code era time, and it was towards the end of it where it was much looser, so he was able to push the boundaries of what he couldn't really do beforehand, including women wearing bras and that kind of stuff. But yeah. Well, there's so much stuff to say, but I think I bored you to death. Enough is enough. Next one we're doing is Misery. Very, very simple film, very strange, but beautifully filmed, and also, yeah. Rob Reiner, the director of the film, has learned a lot from Hitchcock. Confined place, all in one room, and the camera's inventiveness in that film is really, really interesting. So I hope I'll see you there. Take care.